Labeled for English. That's a new banner. Other languages will not be correctly transcribed.
Whoa.
Hey, so we've got auto captioning for our live streams now.
I mean, that's been a thing for a while.
Yeah, but now there's a banner that pops up telling me that it's active as soon as I start the stream.
That's nice. We like it.
All right. I think we're good to go. Do I have an opening bit? I don't know what was going on in Manhattan, but like all the streets were closed and there were no cars anywhere, and it was weird.
Okay.
I guess that's the best I got. I got a biking opening bit because Thursday we're going to talk about the Warwick thing, so that can be its own thing. All right. It's Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are reviewing Counter-Strike, which might as well be a Geek Nights episode from 2012 or 2002 or 1999.
Counter-Strike 2.
Counter-Strike 2.
Pretty sure we already did Counter-Strike 1.
I gotta check to see if we did a Counter-Strike show. I assume we did. Probably a long time ago. That's got to be an early Geek Nights episode. All right. So, things are getting a little bit back to normal when what I'm about to say is, so I was biking home from work like you do. And this wasn't like a weird hobo attack or anything. It was just, I'm biking home. And the previous day when I biked home, there was just gridlock. Like all the cars in every direction of Manhattan just couldn't move. And there was this big nonsense. But it was very apparent that that's just normal traffic now in New York. Like there was nothing going on. That was just it. And I biked past it all and it was cool. Today, on my way home, I actually stopped for a second because something weird was going on. Like I'm biking home up on the east side, or the east side, and then suddenly it's like really quiet, and I stop and I realize there's no cars anywhere, which is weird. Like no cars are driving next to me in the road. No cars are going across at the intersection.
What road is this?
This is I'm coming up, 2nd Avenue?
Doesn't 2nd Avenue go south?
Then 1st Avenue. I'm heading up on the east side. The two one-way bike paths.
It could be a UN thing.
Nah, so I then notice that there's cops at every intersection blocking all four ways, and multiple cross streets leading up the Queensboro Bridge are completely empty of cars. And
like a UN deal.
I don't know what it was. All I know is they were letting bikes through, and it was the quietest, most pleasant bike ride home I have had in a long, long time.
It could be, some important person driving through or,
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just...
that's not out of the ordinary.
Yep. What was interesting is there were cops everywhere at some of the big intersections, like yelling at all the people who are in cars, like trying to get to the streets if they even had a path to the street. But there was one cop who was just waving the bikes through. Like, no, you can go, just go. Don't worry about it.
It's not going to hurt the VIP in their armored vehicle.
But there was also a giant dodgy-looking FedEx truck that like looked wedged up on the sidewalk under the Queensboro Bridge, and there was a bunch of cops standing around it. But that might just be normal New York.
None of that sounds really out of the ordinary.
No, it was just nice and quiet on my ride home. It was pleasant. I wish they would...
Yeah, it is nice when there's
I wish they would block all the cars more often.
The cars are removed for any reason.
It's like that other day when I was running, and then suddenly like there's a big...
I guess that also shows you is like... the cop during rush hour, it's like the cops could remove the cars and the world didn't end.
Yeah. The world might have ended for the few thousand people sitting in those cars who were angry, but you know who it didn't end for? The orders of magnitude more people transiting through the same space who were not in a car.
I mean, and did the world really end for those people? They just got home.
I mean, they were acting like it did.
Yeah, but it's like, well, you could just wait, however long, and then you'll be home, whatever.
Yeah. Mostly it's stark because during COVID, the thing that was very notable was anytime I went outside, New York City was quiet in a way that I have never experienced before COVID and will likely never experience again, except in brief moments like when cops block all the cars off the street until we finally ban cars.
If you just go somewhere else.
Yeah, but I live here and most of my biking is here, getting between places here.
Well.
Anyway, got some news. So you may remember we talked about how Unity shot itself in both feet, announcing a ridiculous monetization scheme that nobody liked, likely as part of its long fall into hell after it merged with that ad scam company some years ago.
Yeah, and they did what most companies do when they fuck up, which is try to say they're sorry and roll it back. And it's like, well, okay, you rolled it back, and the thing you rolled back to is a lot less bad than the thing you tried originally.
Yep.
But you've completely now lost all trust. I think there's like an old saying that, like, I think it's like when trust comes in on foot and goes out on horseback or something like that, right? It's like, to gain someone's trust takes a long time, to prove that you're trustworthy, and not, it's like you don't want to rush into trusting someone just out of nowhere. That's called being a fool.
Yep.
But you can lose someone's trust in an instant. You screw them over once, that's it. You're gone, right?
And the indications I'm seeing from the people we know in the games industry and the chatter in response to this in those channels seems to basically be nothing they've walked back changes anything. Unity can't be trusted anymore. We are continuing our path to get off of Unity.
I mean, I read the new policy, and it is, if you just take them at their word.
Yeah, if that is all they do, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's all right. It's like basically what they're going to do is the really big games that really make a lot of money are going to have to pay a different structure.
Which is the same model that the other big game engine, Unreal, already has, basically.
And everyone else can basically use it for free, depending on what version they got. There's details and whatever. But basically, as long as you never make a bunch of money, and if there's written text in there that says that, as long as you stick with this version, right, we won't force you into a new agreement, except maybe if they do change the agreement, it'll only apply to like that future version when the agreement changes. So you can stick with this version, until whenever. But of course, eventually that version will be useless.
Yep. So I feel like what's going to happen is everyone who's got a game in process or was about to start may continue with Unity because they've invested in using Unity.
And a lot of people will not choose it for their next endeavor.
I would probably not choose it for any endeavor I was going to do because of all of this. I just can't trust them. But the unfortunate thing, this other news here, so why did Unity do that in the first place? Because there is another problem in the industry that the engines don't really actually make enough money anyway.
Yeah, it's really weird. You would think that, like, okay, people are out there making lots of games, lots of them. There's so many, no one can play them all.
And most of them don't make money and fail.
Right. And all the 3D ones, most of the 3D ones across basically every platform are using one of these two engines. It's not a monopoly, but it's like, it's, only two competitors.
Every conversation I have ever had about game engines was the pros and cons of Epic versus Unreal. Like, it's never about anything else.
If you want to make a 3D type of game, like, those are your choices that'll get you on all the platforms for a modern game, right? And the two companies that make those engines, you think with so many games, being built on your technology, and if any of those games actually like tried to start from scratch, it's like it would be impossible to replicate what those engines provide, right? It would take you such an enormous engineering effort. All those companies would have to make little 2D games instead. Or you could use one of these other engines that are out there. And there are many. Some of them are even free and open source engines that are out there. But they are so inferior, right, technologically speaking, that you basically cannot make a top tier game with them. You can make a good game with them. But it's like, people will be able to tell that your game is like noticeably inferior, right?
And the cost of not using an engine, like if you try to just make a game, any serious significant game from scratch, and you think, what do I need an engine for? That's going to cost more than anything to make.
There are so many. It's not like if you want to make a website and you think like there's web frameworks out there, your Ruby's on Rails and your Django's and your PHP Symphonies and your Java, whatever the fucks they have, Springs, I don't know, fucking know. There's 10,000 web, Flask, so many engines out there, right, for every freaking programming language. But those are all free, right? They're all open source, and they all are basically feature complete because making a web engine is not such a great engineering effort that you could make one on your own. And basically, it's really, I could if I had to. It wouldn't take me that long to basically, at least for the features that I needed, to basically make my own. It's doable, right? It's an achievable. It's not like a Mount Everest, right? It's like a Mount in your town. I hope no one lives in the Himalayas. So, but like to make a 3D game engine that is cross-platform and does all that graphics viz and all the, like all the things that a top tier game does these days, the engineering effort to make that is preposterous. It might even be like, like a rocket launch level.
And thus the problem. Unity and Epic, like Unreal, effectively are subsidized for the rest of the industry by various means because they themselves need to make money via other mechanisms. So Epic, the competitor to Unity, has also now laid off 16% of its workforce and is trying to achieve, quote, financial sustainability.
Yeah, you think of it, the people who run Fortnite are not profitable.
Yeah, the biggest, probably the most popular game on Earth.
I don't know about that. It's way up there, though.
It's one of them. Like it is. Fortnite is like
way up there.
Talk about an example of a well-designed, successful, fun game that terrifying numbers of people play. If that can't even make money, how is this industry even going to make money? How is anyone going to make games for money?
Making it is too expensive. I read an article. Maybe I'll find it. But basically, they talk about how there's a missing middle in game development right now. Where basically you have your AAA games, your mega games with big budgets, right? And then you have like, they're successful, but like your Slay the Spires or your Vampire Survivors that are like thrown together for almost no budget, right? Mm-hmm. And there aren't games that have like, it's like you've either got a budget of like a bag of ramen or you have a budget of a lottery prize.
And the reason for this, it is really hard to support the middle of an industry like this. That is the most expense to provide the things they need and the help they need for the least profit because only the two tail ends are going to make money.
Yeah, nobody's making it any. There's basically not a lot. There's hardly any games with like a $50,000 budget, $100,000 budget, $200,000. Those games, where are they? They're not out there, right? Or again, and games that not only the budgets but the time frame, right? You either threw it together at a game jam in a weekend, or you spent 3 years on it. Yeah. The 6-month game that like you get together 6 months, you get it out, right? Where is that? It's not here.
Well, partly because the entire industry, sadly, I think, is built on a bubble of investor money and unrealistic expectations about free-to-play monetization models and or metaverse-like nonsense.
Well, I think it's all, it's if you're, because the
everyone wants to be Roblox.
Well, we have this expectation, right, that you're going to make this game, with like, we have this amazing technology to make fancy games, right? And it's like, well, no matter what your game is, making a game with that high-end technology, right, is expensive. Yep. It's like already the budget right out of the gate to buy the developers' computers is $3,000 per person.
And never mind the fact that a game like Fortnite, like a game that has servers or infrastructure or is online or evolves, requires tons of constant investment. And yet, while probably the right way to fund that is the people who play it pay money, we know that doesn't generate enough profits to fund a game like that. Free to play extracts money from people who wouldn't otherwise spend money.
Right. So you have a customer who wants a product that is highly engineered and expensive to produce, right? And yet is unwilling to pay what that actually costs.
Yep. And meanwhile, look at the older days, like look at an NES game in the 90s, Final Fantasy or Legend of Zelda 2 and Mario 3 were both $65 and $70 at Toys R Us when I was a kid in 90s dollars. And you paid money and you got a game. Even in a single-player world in the modern era, not many people are willing to pay really any amount of dollars for a game.
All right, well.
Yep. So I don't know where this goes because basically Unity was under the same pressures.
We've been waiting as long as GeekNights exists for various bubbles to burst. Game development, publishing bubbles, ad bubbles.
They almost microburst. Like the people who are employed in these industries get screwed over and the industry contracts, but then like the bubble reforms as people find some increasingly esoteric way to trick people to pay for something they weren't otherwise going to pay for. Because that's the thing that really bothers me in the end. The entire monetization model, even around Fortnite, is basically instead of paying for a game, it is get people to pay for cosmetics who wouldn't otherwise pay for game. So you're getting someone to spend money they wouldn't have otherwise spent with some sort of free-to-play, inducive, addictive model that I have a lot of concerns about.
Well, I feel like what happened was, in the early 2000s, right, when the tech bubble went, right, it's like they blew into it too much and it popped, right?
Yep.
And they're like, okay, we'll get another balloon and try again. And what they've been doing, I guess as a whole, is the lesson they learned is don't blow too hard, it'll pop, right? When it gets too tight and the skin is too thin, let some air out.
Yeah.
Right? It'll fart a bunch and then start blowing into it again. And we're just blowing up and deflating this balloon over and over.
Yep.
Right? And to avoid popping it. But every deflating part still sucks. And it's like, it never holds its own. You never tie it shut. Doesn't fly, it doesn't take off.
Yep.
Right?
And meanwhile, we've got two balloons that hold up most of the modern video game industry, and neither one has enough air.
Anyway.
You got any news?
I don't have a news. I mean, there probably is easy to find news, but whatever. I played this game that I paid a few dollars for called Heretic's Fork, right? And Heretic, I was willing to pay for it because based on everything I saw, it was a combination of other games that I had seen, right? There were Slay the Spire elements. There were Inscription elements. There were Tower Defense elements. There were aesthetic elements from like Demon's Tilt or Death Crown, sort of that sort of really scary kind of horror, hell, pixely kind of aesthetic going on. Elements of what's it called? The one where it's a Hypnospace Outlaw, right? Basically, it was elements from a lot of games that were great games, and it seemed like they were all combined in one game. So I checked it out, and what it is. Heretic's Fork is basically, it's more similar to like a solo tabletop card game like, Friedman's Free Friday. And if you don't know about those, basically it's sort of like playing Dominion by yourself, right? Where you have a little deck and you play cards every turn, right? And you're trying to optimize this deck. And if you optimize it well enough to beat, this AI, or basically just to beat these numbers that are in the computer, then you win. So what's happening is every turn you draw 4 cards and you have 6 energy, right? A lot like a Slay the Spire kind of deal. And you can play cards, and the cards upgrade this tower defense that you have, right? And after you're done playing all your cards and not doing anything else, you basically say go, and the tower defense just sort of happens, and you either make it or you don't make it, right? And it gets harder as you go on. And the thing that makes the strategy comes in is that you can always take 2 cards that are the same level, right, and combine them to basically, destroy them and get a card that's 1 level higher, right? But your deck always stays at like at least 13 cards. They keep adding rocks to it automatically, which are like the worst garbage cards that you can use. But really what you usually do with rocks is combine 2 rocks to get a level 1 card. And occasionally there's all sorts of other mechanics in there that, get some other cards and other stuff like that. But it's actually pretty fun because they give you like several characters to choose from. And you're trying to beat the game with each character. And all the characters play the game somewhat significantly differently.
Oh, I mean, Slay the Spire's got that going on. The 4 characters are very different in how they actually play.
Right. Yep, the final character is the only one I haven't beaten the game with yet. They don't let you do the cards the normal way. They have a money system where you destroy cards to get money, and then you buy cards with the money.
Ooh.
And it's like
it's like Crypt of the Necrodancer, where you get the 1 character, and instead of a rhythm game, it's just a puzzle game.
Yeah, sort of like that, yeah. And then, the main menu of the game is a lot like Hypnospace Outlaw, where it's like this desktop of a computer, and it's...
Oh, I see an evil Clippy.
Yeah, there's an evil Clippy, and basically there's a plot where, like, you think you're playing a game, but actually, like, you're, torturing damned people in hell, and maybe you're also a damned person in hell, and, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I like that kind of thing.
And once you beat the game with all 6 characters, there's this you get a key every time you win with a new character. There's an admin thing you got to unlock. I haven't gotten the final key, so I can't even spoil it if I wanted to. But it's it's semi-Inscription-esque with the plot, and Hypnospace Outlaw-esque with the desktop interface. So if that sounds like fun to you, play it.
Sounds like fun to me.
it's not the most fun thing ever. I don't think it's as good as any of those games that I mentioned. It's not as good as Slay the Spire. It's not as good as No Space Outlaw. It's not as good as, any of those ones.
Yeah.
But it takes elements from all of them and combines them. So if you are an enjoyer of those, you probably will still enjoy this despite it not being as good. It's still good enough that, And it's in a bundle right now on Steam, actually, with this other game called 20 Minutes to something. What game was it? 1 second. As I've played that other game also.
20 minutes to, I don't see a bundle here. Oh, wait.
The Heretic
20 minutes till
20
dawn.
Minutes till dawn. Yeah, so 20 Minutes Till Dawn is basically the same game as Vampire Survivors, except probably better because you actually, don't just automatically shoot, you actually control the shooting.
Ooh. It's got a good aesthetic, too.
Yeah, but it's basically 20 Minutes Till Dawn is like 90% the same game as Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
So if you like Vampire Survivors, like I played Vampire Survivors up until they added like the gold system to it. And then I was like, that's enough of that. But it's like, if you want more of that, but you don't want the exact same game, it's like, here's another one of those. So you can get a bundle together if you really want.
But anyway, things of the day. I just bumped into this. I thought it was super cute. It's a little animation about Hatsune Miku set to the Anamanaguchi song about Hatsune Miku, and it just got stuck in my head, and the animation's super cute, and she's hiding in your Wi-Fi. That's all I got.
Yeah. I got to say, though, that, Miku still being around.
Oh, yeah. Miku was a precursor. I think we said a lot about what Miku foretold for the future, and yeah, Miku, it's still happening. Miku's real.
Right. But, that's just, I've been thinking lately that, of all the animes, right, that there are, right, that, are sci-fi, and of course sci-fis are always telling the futures,
Yep.
right, and saying play gods and such. But I'm feeling that, the world we're in right now is probably closer to Macross Plus than any other anime world, right?
Yeah.
All the animes, that's the one that got it the most right? We're not in Akira world.
Yep.
We're not in a...
we're edging into we're like halfway between a Macross world and a Ghost in the Shell world because they're both
but I think it's
cyber
really
dystopias.
We are quite close to a Macross Plus world. Right?
Yeah, I mean Hatsune Miku is real and is out there.
Like the stuff that's going on right now. So
yeah. Project a little bit into the future of Hatsune Miku-like things coupled with large language models, and there's going to be entirely autonomous YouTubers indoctrinating kids into ridiculous nonsense.
But the fact that we finally have something resembling an AI and it's entertainment focused primarily.
Yep.
Right?
And it's moving way faster than most people expected it to.
Like people are using it to make music.
Yep.
Right? It's like, okay. Thing of the day. So this person, what was their name? Eric Wernquist. I'm gonna guess maybe they're Swedish, right? With a name like Wernquist, but they might not be. They might, who knows? But they made a short film. It's basically 5 minutes long. The short film is called 1 Revolution Per Minute, and it's about a space station that turns at 1 revolution per minute and creates 1/2 G's of gravity with its turning, or artificial gravity. And it's really just, you're watching, they basically rendered the space station in 3D, right? That is a fictional one that they made, and they did a really good job of it. And it's sort of basically giving you a tour of the space station while there's a narrator speaking, and nobody's on the space station, right? Or, at least it doesn't appear anyone's on it. And you're basically just looking around it. They're showing off the fancy job they did rendering this thing and modeling it. And while a narrator, is sort of giving sort of like a welcome to the space station, like the thing you would hear if you had just landed and docked and got on board, right? And it's, it's that for 5 minutes. But I gotta say, this would make a great intro to like a BioShock-esque video game, System Shock type of that's what it feels like. Like it feels like you're watching the intro video to Something Shock, the video game.
Yep, like suddenly something happens and then it's like, well, good luck, you're on your own.
The whole game is about to be you on this space station, exploring it, figuring it out, Metroiding, who knows what the hell, right? But it's just a movie. It's not a game. That's it. So
Not bad.
But, not a waste of 5 minutes of your day to watch this.
In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book, which we will do shortly after the next book comes out, and we have read it, which won't be too long away, The Murderbot Diaries. I have read 4.9 Murderbots.
I read all of them except for the one that isn't out yet.
Yep. To the individual who said that the 5th book dragged and was long and the humans were annoying, I think I have the exact opposite opinion. That touched into the kinds of things that I am into, and now that I have more context on what alien remnants are, yeah, it's just the aliens universe. This is just the aliens universe, pretty much straight up.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but it basically hits you over the head with that in the 5th book, especially the whole, all the corporations, the only thing they agree on as these corporate libertarian hell companies is that nobody's allowed to fuck with aliens because they're too dangerous. Alien shit, too dangerous. You need permits, and no one ever gets a permit. That's the alien world right there. And Grey Chris is definitely the kind of company that would send a ship to go do something it shouldn't. Otherwise, we're going to be at PAX West. PAX West. We were at PAX West.
Unplugged.
I haven't posted the news yet with the link because I'm waiting for the PAX schedule to go up so I can link to it. We will be live at PAX Unplugged with a panel. A brand new panel, Mastering Game Mechanics, Worker Placement. We're going to talk about nothing but worker placement mechanics for 59 minutes. It's going to be glorious.
Right.
I think we have more than 59 minutes worth of stuff to say, so we already got to figure out how to pare that down. We will also be doing...
To make the Geek Nights website live this weekend? Maybe?
Yeah, we'll do it this weekend.
Attempt it. We'll see.
The only thing I got to do this weekend is I think at 6 a.m. I have to do a practice run with my marathon running team in Central Park and run 18 miles in a group.
I may attempt to bike to an apple orchard, but maybe not.
Nah. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, it looks like the wildfire smoke is not going to hang around too long, so I should be fine for this. Our second event at PAX Unplugged will be...
Oh, there was another event. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we have a long slot in the Learn and Play room.
I thought that meant event that was over.
Yeah, because we will also be doing a Learn and Play and win, meaning we're going to teach strategy for real on the basics of trick-taking games. We're going to teach Whist and have you all play like one hand of Whist, but not a whole game of Whist because Whist is literally obsolete. Then we're going to teach Hearts. Then we're going to play a 40-point hand of Hearts with everybody. And then we're going to play the Wizard.
Yeah.
And I feel like that covers all like the core types of mechanics. We can teach people around like what cards to shove into some idiot's hand so they lose hearts. Like that kind of advice. It'll be a good time. Here, would you like some high spades? Would you like all my high clubs?
I have a problem. I did not push record until 3 minutes ago.
Uh-oh. Let me put a little marker there. I can salvage audio of you from the Discord. It'll just be slightly shitty. So for any of you listening at home, the listener, the audio of Scott before this point will sound...
Before 3 minutes ago.
Will sound somewhat bad, but it'll be fine. Don't sweat it. Oh, God, I changed the volume. I'm going to have to run a filter. I can handle that. Anyway, no biggie. I can talk about that in the stinger. Yeah, let's just get right into it. So, Counter-Strike is the game. I'm trying to think of games that we have played.
We did an episode on Counter-Strike ! On June 13th, 2006. So, when Geek Nights wasn't even a year old, right?
Yep.
Then we did an episode on Counter-Strike Go First Thoughts Only in 2012. So 6 years after that. So
now I want to point out in 2006
on Counter-Strike when it was 6 years old. We did an episode on Counter-Strike Go when it was brand new, and Counter-Strike as a whole was 12 years old. Right now, Counter-Strike is 23 years old.
Yep. And when we did that episode on Counter-Strike in 2006, we had already been playing Counter-Strike for 6 years.
Right. But yeah, we're doing an episode on Counter-Strike when it's 23 years old, and for its 23rd anniversary, I guess, close to it, in its 23rd anniversary year, they have released Counter-Strike 2.
Yep. So the progression's interesting.
Not 2.0, just 2.
because
Valve
Counter-Strike
can't count to 3, so this is the end. This is it.
This is the last Counter-Strike.
That's right. They don't know how to count to 3. This
Yeah. Granted, I still do believe that Half-Life Alyx is effectively Half-Life 3. It's just they couldn't sell it to enough people because VR is not enough. That doesn't have enough adoption. It is the best Half-Life game.
The first thing you need to know about Counter-Strike 2, and this is probably most of what there is to talk about actually, is that you get it for free. You get it. You get it, right? It's like, it is basically, they removed Counter-Strike Go from the face of the earth. It basically is taking up the same spot in the Steam store.
Yep.
So if you already had Counter-Strike Go, congrats, you now have Counter-Strike 2, and you don't have Counter-Strike Go. Nobody has Counter-Strike Go. It is go on, right? Goodbye.
It's as if thousands of nerds who are specific about that particular version suddenly cried out in anguish and were suddenly silenced.
And I gotta say, like, I understand kind of why they did that, but also it's kind of bullshit, right? From a preservation standpoint, from a I bought that game standpoint. Like, imagine if I bought Mario 3.
Wasn't Counter-Strike Go also free to play?
I don't know.
Counter-Strike 2, I'm pretty sure it was just free to play.
I think that we can't. The problem is I think what they've done is that because we had Counter-Strike back in the day as a mod, we got it for free, and because of that, we've had it for free since then.
Well, Counter-Strike 2 is free.
I think that at some point, other people had to buy Counter-Strike like to get in, and once you're in, you're in. But
Counter-Strike Go,
we were sort of in at the beginning.
Well, people forget there was also Counter-Strike Source.
Yeah.
What was interesting,
but that still exists. That's not gone.
Yeah, but what's funny is, as far as I can tell, no one plays it. So
no, why would you?
But Counter-Strike 1.6 still has a lot of players.
Yes, that still exists. Anyway, so that's kind of BS. Another thing that I've seen people bring up that's kind of BS is that because it takes up the same spot in the Steam store, regardless of Counter-Strike Go still existing or not, all of the reviews for Counter-Strike Go apply to Counter-Strike 2. And if you were to filter the Steam store and sort of separate the reviews for since Counter-Strike 2 was released, since when and remove all the Counter-Strike Go reviews, Counter-Strike 2 actually has mixed reviews. But if you look at the store right now, let's look at the store right now, actually, and let's see Counter-Strike 2 store page. Because all the Counter-Strike Go reviews are mixed in, it has mostly positive and very positive. Yeah. Whereas if you didn't include those old reviews from 2012 onwards, it would be mixed instead. So I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the mixed review, but just that, hey, it is like a new engine. It's, a lot of things are similar, but also not. Is it disingenuous to apply those reviews to the new game? It's a controversy. It's something, I don't care too much about it, but it is a thing.
Though Fortnite has just versions that change more than Counter-Strike 2 changed over Counter-Strike 1.6, just like randomly on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
Like Galactus shows up and kills everybody, and then Spider-Man's there, and then a bunch of weapons are gone, and there's a new vehicle, and the map's totally different.
Yep. Anyway, so Counter-Strike 2, we played it for quite a session, and then Rim kept playing it.
Yep, I've kept playing it because I'm going to admit right now, Overwatch is my primary, right now, the game I will default to if I want a competitive series experience is still Overwatch. But
see basically, for what likely to be the final Overwatch championship just happened, Florida won.
Yeah. It's
probably the end.
It's funny because I love watching the matches of Overwatch League, but I do not care at all about the people or the teams or who wins. I just watch the matches because they're the best Overwatch players on earth, and that is how I get better, because you can watch them from one of their eyes and see what the fuck they're doing to be better than me. So, I guess Counter-Strike 2. I didn't play a lot of Counter-Strike Go. I actually didn't like Counter-Strike Go that much as it went on, partly for a lot of reasons that are kind of irrelevant to this review.
I didn't hate Counter-Strike Go. The thing is, and it's, the same thing is going to keep me from playing Counter-Strike 2, is it just I'm not any good at these games anymore.
Yeah.
It's like back in the day, it's like I got instant headshotted a lot, even when there was all kinds of cheating going on, right? But it's not as much as I do now. Like when we play Counter-Strike 2, I was absolutely ineffective. I was against real people. I was barely playing.
Yep.
Right?
Though I don't think you had enough matchmaking data, so it's hard to say what was going on.
I could probably play a bunch until the matchmaking put me against other garbage players who can't click on heads.
I played about 5 matches, and then suddenly everyone in every server I joined in casual was about my skill level.
Right. But it's like, it's not the game's fault that the kind of game it is was once the kind of game for me and is now not, right?
Yep. Well, part of it too, I think, is that unlike you, like I have been playing FPSs competitive FPSs pretty much continuously since 2000. Like I never stopped. I've been playing them just regularly for 20 years, not counting the 10 years I played them before that. So I just kept that going. Even though I am older and I'm slower, I am finding I can still click on heads pretty well if I just continue to play and practice.
I mean, it also doesn't help that even when I was playing FPS games very regularly, right, I wasn't really that good at clicking on heads.
That is true.
On my best day.
Yep.
Right.
But I guess the danger to me is that when we played Counter-Strike 2 together, I had thought I had a lot to say for the review, and I didn't think I'd play it that much. But then I played some more, and I hit a moment, and I realized, for me at least, as someone who has played every version of Counter-Strike, kind of a lot.
Every version.
Yeah, but I played them all kind of a lot. Like, I kept playing them even when you stopped playing them. Counter-Strike 2 is a breath of fresh air. And I say that because Counter-Strike Go, when you went into the game, they put so much crap and all these different modes and all this bullshit around the skins. Like, it was so front and center, and the missions and all the like stuff to trick you into buying a key to open a thing, that it was like a chaotic mess, like how Fortnite was. And when I wanted to just play Counter-Strike like I remembered from the old days of 1.6 and Swords hanging out at RIT, really couldn't find a server or a group of people who played that way, and it just wasn't that fun. Counter-Strike 2, when you launch it, you get a completely empty screen. Your guys standing there. You can click a button, and there's a small number of modes that are basically the modes you want, and everything kind of just works, and all the cruft has been pushed aside unless you look for it. And when you do click into casual mode, most of the time, the server you join with the people you play with, it's about like how it was in the old days. Like, it's just refreshing. People are playing Counter-Strike. They're mostly trying to win. The feel is just very different from every feel I got with the people I was playing Counter-Strike Go with. And I feel like it bit me. I'm going to play it a lot.
A lot of changes to the game that are like, significant, but also it's like, the game's been around so long that like they're really polishing some, like really specific things, but in a way that makes a big difference. Like the way the smoke works now, they made it volumetric smoke.
It looks so good.
Right. And it's like bullets go through the smoke sort of, and like make little holes in the smoke. Right. It's like they are really like the amount of polish that has gone on now. It's just one example.
Yep, the shadows are fully dynamic and look amazing, but they're also game impacting because now there's some places like
we're not talking about just graphical shininess here. We're talking about things that actually matter for the game.
Yep. Like the smoke is a big deal because smoke is a big part of serious Counter-Strike play.
The way the fire Molotov cocktails now work, like you can set water on fire with the.
I was in a map and I was hiding in a spot that I used to like to hide in back at RIT because the map hasn't changed much, and I see overhead a shadow of what is clearly a terrorist just goes boop boop boop. So I know a terrorist is standing right above me, and I just aim my stare AUG straight up and shot him through the floor and killed him.
Yep, it's like these. You think, the guy doesn't, it matters, right?
Yep. The soundscape, whatever they're doing for the sound, Counter-Strike was notable, even in the 1.6 era, for being extremely good at helping you locate people, because sound is a big part of what makes the game fun. You're sneaking around, walking versus running is a big deal. Hearing one footstep, it could be the difference between winning and losing a match. The sound design to locate where someone is in this game is somehow better, and I can't articulate how, but it is hyper realistic in a weird way that just works. It feels really natural.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still the same game. It's Counter-Strike. You're bombing, you're right. The things is that you talked about how clean it is, and I do appreciate that the menus and everything it's like just really straightforward and not a big mess. However, it's like there were a lot of modes in Counter-Strike Go that are now gone.
Yep, the mode, the quick mode. I forget what it was even called. The mode where like the map is smaller.
War games or something. It's like you can't play gun game right now. It's like they took it out.
Yep.
So it's not there.
Now we know gun game will come back. I am 100% confident.
I'm sure
but
it'll come back eventually, but it's like you could play it and now you can't. It's like I paid for CSGO or someone paid for CSGO, and now that the mode is just gone. Too bad.
Yep.
There's also, it's like when you choose modes, it's like you're choosing like these map sets. It's like map set 1, map set 2, and then like Dust is your third.
Dust 2 specifically.
Dust 2. Yeah. And it's like you can't just like choose the map you want directly unless like you set up a server or something, right? It's like if you only want to play Nuke, you really can't do that. It's like Nuke and another map are in the same bundle, and you're going to sort of just be playing those maps.
Yeah, but you can get a vote because it'll keep groups together generally on a...
but you can't just play like... you can't pick one map that's not Dust 2 and play it on repeat.
Though what's interesting is unless you joined very specific servers back in the day in the 1.6 era, there weren't many ways to do that then either. Like there were a handful of servers that were map specific. Like there was an Italy map.
The default Counter-Strike servers back in the day just had every single default map on a rotation in order.
Yep. Except our server, which was just FY Icy World.
Well, that's because all the CPU could handle was Icy World with like a smaller number of players.
So the other thing that's notable, and this is something that Overwatch also did, I think is very important, relative to the powers of modern game PCs and relative to how good this game looks, Counter-Strike 2 will basically run on a potato.
Yeah, so on the one hand, I believe they increased the requirements somewhat, right? But you're right, it only requires 8 gigs of RAM. I didn't check what the requirements were before, but it requires 8 gigs of RAM, which is like any computer you buy, the cheapest computer available.
An NVIDIA GeForce 610M or better.
So basically, any old laptop that you buy, any computer you buy new in the United States is going to play Counter-Strike. Well, it's going to be way above that.
You know what can't run it? My HTPC, because it has a GTX 450M.
Yeah. So the minimum CPU required is the Core
i5 750.
All right, so the Core i5 750.
Wait, is that a Nehalem number? That looks like a Nehalem number.
So you got to imagine, right? We're currently on the Intel 14 series, right?
Yeah.
And so if this is a 700, that means this came
I think that's Nehalem. That came out.
CPU came out in 2009.
Yup,
so
Nehalem.
You can have a CPU that's older than Counter-Strike Go and play Counter-Strike 2.
Now, even the recommended requirements, they basically, like, CPU never matters, but a GeForce 2070 is what they recommend, which is better than what I got. I didn't turn the settings all up to max because I only got a 1080 still.
Mm-hmm.
But with a 1080, without everything set to the max, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah. But, you'll still... I'd love to try and get the exact computer, like an i5 750 with 8 gigs of RAM, and see how Counter-Strike 2 runs on it, right?
I guess I could turn all my settings down to the minimum just to see what it would look like.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably would be similar, but your monitor has too high res is the problem.
Yep.
Right? I don't know if you'd be able to do 1080p with that setup. You might have to do lower than that.
But I guess in terms of the game, like reviewing the game, I mean, it's Counter-Strike. There's only so much to say, but the reason
I already know Counter-Strike. I mean, it's a team-based FPS. There's bomb mode and there's hostage mode.
Yep.
It's usually 5-on-5, but you could have different numbers, right? When you die until the next round. There's no respawning like Quake, which was basically, I don't know if Counter-Strike was the first game to do that ever, but it was the first game that made that a thing, right?
You know what else did it? Action Quake 2.
Well.
Action Quake 2, the default mode was basically the same as Counter-Strike, but there was no bomb.
Right. And then basically you play until either one team is completely dead, or the bomb goes off, or the hostages are rescued.
Yep.
Or even if everyone's dead on the terrorist team who has the bomb, if the bomb has been planted and it goes off, the terrorists can still win even if they all die and do basically a suicide bombing mission.
Yep. Or old Counter-Strike had other ones like did the VIP make it to the chopper, or did the terrorists escape the prison?
And mostly it's an FPS where you're moving slowly. You're not moving like Quake where it's fast. You start with the pistols in the first round, and you earn money as the game goes on in sort of a snowball effect, where the winning team gets more money to buy better weapons. They have a better chance to maintain their advantage. But you still get plenty of money if you lose, and you can come back. It's not like a devastating difference. You can choose what weapons you want: pistols, sniper rifles, submachine guns, big machine guns, grenades of various kinds, armors, and all sorts of stuff. And all the weapons are not so realistic like Arma or, PUBG, but they're also not unrealistic like Doom or Quake.
Yep.
They're
and the game is all about basically,
you don't die in one shot, but you can if it's a headshot with a sniper rifle.
Yeah, it's basically about squad tactics, do when the shit hits the fan. Because the setting of Counter-Strike is the negotiation with the terrorists just failed and the SWAT team was just sent in, and that's when a match starts.
Yep. Or the SWAT team knows the terrorists are coming, and the terrorists are like, "Fuck it, we're gonna blow this shit up. Here we come." And it's that exact moment is when the game starts.
So
all the stuff that before and after it outside of a terrorist situation are not addressed by Counter-Strike.
And I guess what struck me was in the casual modes of CSGO, it was people were just kind of running around, not actually really playing, and it wasn't that fun. I have found playing in casual and competitive mode in the new Counter-Strike, people are trying to win at about the same level as what I remember from RIT, and it struck something in me. I forgot how fun this game is when everyone's in the same at the same level and caring about the same amount, because this game is fundamentally about moving as a squad, covering your teammates, being tricky, and trying to trap or ambush the other side, because if you're not moving and someone comes around a corner who is moving, you are very likely able to kill them because they won't be able to shoot you due to the fact that since they're moving, their recoil's all over the place and they won't be able to hit you. So your friend moves forward while you cover them, they hide and cover the window while you sneak past, you throw a flashbang and everyone runs in. And what the game has added is the radar is a little better and more focused on...
I can say that in old Counter-Strikes, the radar was always there, but I never used it. In fact, I think there was a time where someone said, someone told me to use the radar, and I didn't realize it existed.
Yeah, and you were like, it's not there, and we're like, yeah, it is. Look at the upper edge of the screen, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that was there the whole time. I never noticed it. But also, that radar was so useless. Even if you did look at it, it was so different. It was not a good radar. It was like using the thing in freaking Aliens, right? Where it's just dots, and it doesn't show you is that dot in the hallway? Is that dot up, down, right? The new radar was actually super useful, and I found myself looking at it a lot.
Yep.
Maybe too much, which might be why I was getting shot and killed, because I was looking at the radar.
Coupled
not the
with,
screen, right?
They've added pings, and I don't know how much of this might have been in CSGO, but I never remember seeing it, and other ways to communicate beyond voice. And also some of the hierarchy of attention types of things that games like Overwatch and real world things like fighter jets use, like the modern science of attention hierarchies of user experience design, so that the game is giving you everything you need to naturally coordinate with your team without actually having to say words in the microphone. And it is shockingly effective, because Counter-Strike had a reputation, partly because it was one of the first games to be popular like this online at scale, of having
Still
just
popular 23 years later.
Yep. But in the old days, if there's voice chat or text chat, people just being absolutely horrible in those chats. So far, my experience in Counter-Strike 2 is that nobody's been horrible, and teams are coordinating at the level that required being in a Ventrilo server in the old days, despite the fact that nobody is in voice and people are only using the nonverbal in-game communication. And yet the teams are fully coordinated.
Because they assume that everyone else is going to be a piece of shit. They don't want to hear it, and they don't want to...
Yeah, but that nobody's in voice. Everyone's just using the systems in the game. And I saw in casual matches at my, I guess I'm probably the lowest possible skill rank, people were playing the high-level game of rotate between the bomb points or coordinate and be a distraction, all the kinds of ploys and clever plays that you'd think you'd only see among serious players. I was seeing that for real and participating in it in casual games. And that did not happen organically at any point playing Counter-Strike Go over the years.
All right. So the question is, should somebody play Counter-Strike 2?
I would say if you have never
already-
played a Counter-Strike, you should play it just to see what the deal is with Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
If you like, it's like Evangelion. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's been around for 23 years. There's something to it. You at least need to understand what there is to it, even if you decide it's not for you.
Wow, there's actually a Valve Complete Pack that is like $50 that has basically Portal 1, Portal 2, Team Fortress 2, all the Portals, all the Counter-Strikes, all the Half-Lives,
Huh.
all the everything that Ricochet's even in there. So if you have a computer and you haven't played all those games, all right. But yeah, if you've never played a Counter-Strike, even if you have no interest in it, just do it like one time, like for 20 minutes, just to know how to Counter-Strike, see what it is, right? If maybe you like it, I don't know. If you have Counter-Strike in the past and have not in a while, should you come back?
Absolutely, yes. This is your best chance to see if it's still for you, because I think a lot of people like us fell out.
The mood for it, right? If you already know Counter-Strike and you're not, it's like, this is Counter-Strike. It's not going to be something different than what you remember. So if
I don't know, there's a sort of
Counter-Strike,
I guess I did.
Mood, then here you go.
I expected not to get back into Counter-Strike. Like I almost felt like I was going to play it to review it, but then it bit me in a way I didn't expect. And I think other people may experience the same thing. If you slowly fell off of Counter-Strike during the Go era, this is a chance to see if you still like Counter-Strike, because I feel like they have course corrected from the direction Go was going. It just felt a lot more like old Counter-Strike, which I think was better.
And then I guess if you're already playing Counter-Strike, it's like, you're already playing Counter-Strike all the time. You don't need to hear anything from us because we play Counter-Strike a lot less than you do.
Yep, though I may be playing a lot more.
Better.
And there is a mode that I think we should talk about briefly, and we can end on that. You can make a local matchmaking group, and this is a cool feature. More games should do this. So you and all your friends can share one code and be in a group, and it'll basically matchmake among just your friends.
Yep.
That's it. Like, think about the ramifications of that.
Well, so like, let's say it only really comes into a play if you have a lot of friends.
At least enough to be able to fill a server.
Right. So like, let's say you do have 10 friends at a LAN party, right? It can basically line things up and get your teams pretty even, right? And what if I don't know if it'll work if you have more than one server's worth of people? Like, what if you have 50 people at a LAN party and everyone joins? Is it going to matchmake amongst the 50 people and make like 10 teams that are balanced?
Yep.
I don't know.
Well,
Maybe.
so Overwatch, so they had the thing.
I tried it. I just read about it.
They had the thing where if you played on a private server that you just spun up, you could enable a mode where after every match, it would rebalance the teams based on which team did better and who was responsible for them being better, to try to make the matches as even as it possibly can among the people playing. And it was actually really effective and allowed a lot of people who would otherwise bounce off of that match to keep playing.
Yeah, but I got to say, though, it's still if you're in a game that is not match made well, right? It's still the same game. One person who can click on heads is going to make their team win regardless of anything the other 9 players do.
Yep.
Right?
But I got past that and was
to sit through a lot of games until the matchmaking basically puts you up against nobody who can click on heads. Or if you can click on heads, you might be stuck clicking on a lot of heads and winning, but against people who are vastly inferior and not giving you a good challenge until you get ranked up and are against other click on heads people.
I did revisit the old strategy of, rather than just running out every match, I hung back. I looked at who is good on the team.
Let everyone else be the meat shield.
Yeah. But also I followed, like, if a group of 2 people who were like near the top of the team and clearly knew what they were doing were on my team, I would follow them and basically like cover them when they walk through dangerous places and just try to keep them alive. And that actually allowed me to be a productive, useful member of my team. And it also gave me enough time.
Good idea for lower skilled people.
And it also, it reminded me of things I'd forgotten, like where to hide and like what the good places to have a firefight are. And it meant that I survived long enough to fucking remember how to play this game instead of when we first played.
There are maps that I remember, like, Italy, Office, Dust 2.
Yep, Nuke.
Etc. Yeah, Nuke. But there are also maps where if I did play them in their old versions, I do not remember.
Well, like Inferno, it's really funny. Inferno is one of the old maps we played all the time, but I
don't remember the layout well enough.
Yep, it's so visually different that it's unrecognizable if you don't like remember the continuity. And I don't think you ever played Inferno in the Go or the Source era
well enough to remember it whenever I played.
Yeah.
If I did, it's like I felt like a brand new map to me, and I was lost.
Even though it is the exact same map, to the point that I hid in the spot I used to hide in the original days of that map, and you know what? It's still a great hiding spot, and I won a couple matches by hiding there.
We should mention that there is a practice mode. I did the practice mode against bots. I don't know if you can change the bot difficulty. I assume you can, but the bots were so bad that I was just walking around mowing them down.
Yeah.
No problem. So. I don't know how much of a practice that is, and if you can't change it, I guess you can. I'm assuming you can. I don't know. And then there is also a deathmatch mode, which I got really confused at.
Oh, it's awful.
Because in the deathmatch mode, there are terrorists and counter-terrorists, but it's not a team battle. Like you kill anyone you see.
It's just Quake deathmatch. And
when you spawn, you like get a weapon, but you can still buy stuff instead if you want to, instead of what you're given. And you get a few invincibility frames like when you first spawn. So it's like on the one hand, you can sort of get kills like when you're spawning, but it's also super dangerous when you spawn if like someone's nearby and catches you as soon as your invincibility frames go away.
There was a moment we both
didn't notice them.
Every time either one of us spawned, we just started counting the seconds, and very rarely did we hit the number 5 before we died.
Yeah, it's like it's like either when you spawn, you see someone and you get them because you had invincibility frames and they were unready for you to spawn there, or they didn't notice you, or B, you spawn and die instantly because someone was waiting for invincibility frames to go away.
Yeah.
So it's not a great mode, right? I think it would be, they need to do something different for spawning in a game where you die so quickly and the map is so tight and there's so many people in the map. When Quake, you spawn, you usually, the spawn points are sort of on the edges of a big map. It's usually quiet there. That's not where people are going around collecting quad damages and rocket launchers, right? So you can usually spawn safely on a map full of players.
Yeah.
Even with the invincibility frames, you can't really spawn.
I mean, what they got to do is bring back gun game and team deathmatch. Those are the two modes that are weird.
Those are much better, right?
Gun game is just like, was that invented in Counter-Strike? That was the first time I ever saw that kind of mode.
Yeah, for me, it was the first time I saw it.
I'd never encountered it before. And so many other games, like even Overwatch has a gun game mode that is literally the same gun game you remember from Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long history of, Counter-Strike mods, but a lot of them were like stupid level up shit, right?
Oh, that weird WoW one that started taking over all the servers.
Fun ones. There's all these, there's tons of them. They're all weird and zombie ones and all kinds of nonsense. But the gun game was also one of those that actually happened to be good because it was really straightforward and made sense. And I'm sure they will, but they have not yet brought it back, which is like, that's kind of sad. It's like, hey, you just made Counter-Strike 2 and it's less than what Counter-Strike Go was mode-wise. That's,
Yep.
So
I
can understand someone being upset about that.
I guess let us know if you're going to play it. If we have a critical mass of the listener, then
we don't have 10 plus people.
I'm going to see if we can get enough people. We can make a closed matchmaking group.
They will nominally say like, yes, I want to, but then when it's actually time, there won't be 10 people there.
Yeah, we'll just play casually. Occasionally,
people will have bad internet. Or
I do occasionally pull a listener or two into my Overwatch matches.
Yeah, 1 or 2. Yeah, for sure. We can get that easily,
But if we get enough, we can all join a matchmaking group, and if it never gets used, it never gets used.
Yeah, we're not like those Twitch streamers where like they have a big enough audience on their Discord server that they can just make a game at any moment and fill it with people.
Yep.
Right.
We also don't put in that much effort into scheduling games because we're busy.
Yeah. I mean,
In
I
our
don't
40s and
schedule- I
busy.
don't- But that would require scheduling when I play Counter-Strike, which
Yep.
is if I even play it.
It's not like RIT where I'd come home from class, I would play Counter-Strike. Scott would come home and just join the Counter-Strike server I was in.
Yep. But Counter-Strike 2 is a thing now. Here it is.
Yep.
And,
I'm going to split my time equally between this and Overwatch for the foreseeable future. At least my
hat
FPS
is
time.
off to them for keeping something alive for 23 years and maintaining the essence and not being a traitor to the thing it is, right?
Yep.
They didn't, like, it's not like one of those remakes where, like, it's bad now. They didn't, they kept that same thing alive and updated only the parts that were appropriate to update with the times and the technologies.
I also looked, and it looks like you and I started playing Counter-Strike when Beta 2 came out at the latest, because Beta 3 appears to be when the P90 was added, and I remember the P90 being added and everyone being mad about it.
Strike, I guess whatever version was out in like September, October of the year 2000.
Yep,
was the first
because
one.
November of 2000 is when the first non-beta release happened.
So I played before then. So
Yes,
whatever was out in September, October of the year 2000,
Yep.
that was the first Counter-Strike I played.
So we played in the early betas.
It was definitely beta something, some number.
Yep. All right, easy show. Just stop this
Here's
stream.
my partial MP3.
Send me the
that
partial
starts-
MP3.